Alright, so I'm testing out my PC to see the absolute max wattage I get from just gaming. What I'm using is two voltmeters, my fluke meter there, and then my multimeter over here testing the amps. So amps is tested by cutting into your power cable, isolating one wire, connecting the amp meter around it, and then you'll see potential amps going through. The highest I've seen so far is 3.80, which is pretty average, and nothing special. I've already written out Watt's law. So Watt's law is P equals watts, E equals volts, I equals amps, and then so on and so forth. And you will use this little triangle. P divided by E will equal I, and then P divided by I will equal E. E times I equals P. So yeah. So to test the stuff, you just make sure to ground one. You should be using two hands. Probably not going to get a proper reading, but it is what it is. Yeah, I need that second hand to make sure to be pushing the other one against to make sure it's getting a proper reading. But yeah, anyways, I already written it all down. So for the GPU power cable, I've got 40 volts. For the CPU power cable, I got 41. For the 16 connector, I've gotten 37, and then multiple times across the board, I've gotten 6 for the hard drives, which is about right. For the grand total of 124 volts, which is pretty average. There might be a little bit more, give or take. You can always test your outlets. Sometimes your outlets can give a little bit more, a little bit less, but normally an average home is 120 around that area. Sometimes it could be less. Sometimes it can even be all the way down to 115. Doesn't matter. The highest that I've seen on the voltmeter so far while testing Call of Duty, which is a high CPU and GPU demanded game, is 3.8 amps. So, like we said before, you need to take. Sorry about my chicken scratch writing. I should apologize. Dyslexic. 124 times 3.8 equals a total of 471 potential watts for just gaming. Now, I'm sure if I actually max out the computer and maybe do a Cinebenchmarks where everything's getting tested, it might be more, but it's actually quite interesting because it says that I'm using 471 watts. If you actually go over to the PC part picker, and I pretty much matched exactly what my PC has, and they said that the estimated watch is 469. So man, they pretty much got it spot on. Quite impressive. I thought that this number might be kind of bullcrap, but yeah. So that the thing on the box where it says you shouldn't use a 500 watt with a 2070 Super is kind of telling the truth. I do use this 2070 Super with a 500 watt every once in a while, but if that's my main build and it's in there all the time, I would not be risking it. The thing about a power supply is sometimes it can actually be more beneficial and more energy efficient to have a bigger power supply because it's not draining so much. So, yeah, it's kind of like if you have two different options of a car. You have a version of a Charger in a 6 cylinder versus the 8 cylinder. The 8 cylinder often gets better fuel efficiency because it's overkill for that size of that car, and it's the exact same thing with a power supply. So there's no point going too big, and there's definitely a huge reason to not go too small. But I haven't had a single crash or anything with my PC, using it all the time for hours on end. I think the longest I've used this power supply under load playing Grand Theft Auto, I think we played an 8 hour session, and I have not once had a single hiccup or any sort of power failure, so the power supply is definitely kicking butt. Will I ever know if it goes up to 750? Probably freaking not, because based on mathematics, unless this amperage jumps up to 6, and it really shouldn't, I should never see that.